Sometimes God orchestrates things in interesting ways. I did not plan this. This message was supposed to be preached, I think, 3 weeks ago, but between foot surgeries and between having a missionary in town who I wanted to be able to share with us on sharing the gospel, this message was just inevitably postponed as it came in order. I've just been going verse by verse through 1 Corinthians, so I'm asking for you to be gracious in what I'm about to share, because it was not intentional that on the week that I'm preaching on supporting pastors, I'm also going to give a financial report as to where the church is at. And it's not good, by the way. So let me just explain that to you. We've been watching, by we, I say the council, and as I use the word we, that's who I'm going to be referring to. We've been watching some of the monies that we have in savings dwindle and not really sure as to where it's gone. So we asked a group of men to go to work and try and dig some of that up. And they were tremendously helpful. And they really didn't find anything overtly amazing that said, hey, this one thing is just draining the church's finances. There was a lot of little things, and so we're working on some ways to shore up some of those small leaks. But you know how, if I told you I had a boat for sale and no big leaks, just 1,000 small ones, you probably would want to buy that boat, right? Well, that's kind of the position that we're in. We found some things that we weren't understanding from the financial reports, and I know this is a topic that I've brought up before and that some people have been oppositional to, but also the idea of having a budget. When you have lots and lots of money, not having a budget is okay. And I understand that there are some who think that a budget is restrictive from doing what the Holy Spirit might lead us to do. But I think that that's really not the case. The idea of coming up with a budget as a church is not for the purpose of ruling out where God might lead us, but for being able to track and understand and account for what money is coming in and what money is going out. Before I go any further in this, I think I would be remiss if I didn't thank Donna publicly for the hard work that she puts into this. We, as the nominating committee, thought hard and asked several people about considering being the assistant treasurer, and right now we do not have a recommendation for assistant treasurer. And so I would ask people here today who are sitting here to consider it, to think about it, to pray about it. We need somebody to help her in that. It is a bigger job that she should have to take on by herself. But we're going to take a look at where we've been as a church. That is, what our finances have been like in the past, what we're accustomed to, what we've been operating with, and where we are now. There's a little difference in some of the numbers here, but I'll explain that in a minute. So where we've been. Here's some information on both general fund giving and total giving. So when I say general fund, what I'm referring to is unrestricted giving. Monies that have been given in the plate that are just for the general operation of the church. Designated funds are something that's given to something specific. A specific event, a specific outreach, a specific missionary, a specific trip. Those are designated funds. You can see here that we've got some solid information from 2009 to 2013. The reason that I did not include 2014 and 2015 and said no annual info there is because it's really not accurate info. One of the things we found as we were going through this and as we were studying it, and again, I don't think this is anybody's fault, it's just something that we found to be going on, was that monies that were transferred from savings into the checking account were being counted as income. So as the council looked at the budget, it appeared that we had more money coming in than we really had coming in. And so we didn't really understand what was going on until all of the sudden the money market account was pretty much drained. And so then I started trying to think about where and why. You can see there that we've averaged 150, 148, 137,000, 139, 166,000. That's general fund giving for those calendar years. Now the next slide I'm about to show you isn't a calendar year. This is going to cover, well, we're still going to look at where we've been. Let me go there first, where we've been. So the average general fund income from 2009 to 2013 is $148,500. Average total giving for those years is $220,000. Now, we have it set in our budget. It's been voted on by the congregation that we have a $15,000 tithe. That's roughly 10% of what we see here. That goes out to various ministries and missions as our tithe money, so that when we subtract that from the $148,000, what we get is an actual unrestricted fund amount on average of $133,500 a year. That's where we've been. Now, as we look at where we are, the time frame is going to change a little bit. This information is what I gathered going through the check register, the bank statements, financial reports, everything, trying to come up with the most accurate numbers that I can of where we are now. And these are going to look at the months of July 2015 through June of 2016. So our general fund giving during that period was $101,661. That is well, we'll talk about it in a minute, minus the $15,000 that we still pay in tithe money to various ministries, leaves us a general fund unrestricted budget of $86,661. That's not enough money to pay salaries and bills for the church. In fact, this last pay period, I talked about this a while back. I said it was coming. I encouraged us to look at the financial info. This last pay period was the first time that we were not able to meet our salary requirements. And so we're behind on salaries and considering how we might make up some of that funds so that we can finish paying the salaries of the staff here. Now, by way of comparison, let's compare those numbers. The 5-year average is $148,500. The amount we received in July through June was $101,000. That's a difference of $46,839. Our savings have depreciated less than that. So we've actually depreciated all of our savings, but we're averaging less than what we've lost over the last year. So we've already tightened up spending some, but not enough. One of the things I think is worth taking a look at here is if you look at the 5-year average of total giving at $220,000 and the total giving from July of June of $170,000, the difference there is that of $50,246. So our total giving has come down $50,000. Our general fund giving has come down almost $47,000, which means almost the entire amount of the monies that we're down on the total budget are not coming from restricted giving. It's coming from unrestricted giving. We're still giving as much designated funds as we've ever given. What we're not giving is as much undesignated funds, the funds that pay the bills and pay the lights and pay the salaries. And I think that's worthwhile to note because it would be, to make a reference to the sermon today, out of 2 Corinthians 8, we're called to meet our obligation first and then the obligation of others. But we're to the point where we can't make our own obligation. If you came to me and you sat down in my office and you said, I'm up to my eyeballs in debt and I can't pay my bills, and I found out the reason you couldn't pay your bills is because you were paying other people's bills, what do you think my advice to you would be? Pay your bills first. There's a reason when you're on an airplane and the oxygen masks fall down, you put your oxygen mask on first. Because you can't help your kid if you're passed out. We can't help missionaries. We can't help other local outreaches. We can't help people in the community if we can't meet our own obligations first and keep ourselves in a healthy, breathing position. So I'll talk about that a little more, but almost all of the money that we're down is being lost, not in designated giving, but in undesignated giving. So our total giving dropped down $50,000. Our general fund giving dropped down $48,000. So while our general fund is down $48,000, our designated giving is down $2,000. Does that make sense? Are you tracking with me? So that's a pretty tremendous loss on one side, but not loss on the other. By the way, I'm giving just a real big, broad, sweeping strokes here. There'll be available to you a letter it'll get mailed out, but there will also be available for you to take with you today. That explains some of this, gives some more details, some of the patterns that I see going on in the church that might be contributing to this. Talks about when we're scheduling the business meeting to appoint council members and various other positions in the church that need appointed, and to make a vote or to call for a vote on some of these finances. But how do we move forward? Here's some of the ways that that the leadership has decided and is requesting that we're going to move forward. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to ask for a spending to be approved. Please request permission from the council to spend money prior to purchasing items. Only approved expenses will be reimbursed. The history has been, if I think the church needs something, I go out and buy it and I give Donna the receipt and the money comes back to me. We can't afford to do that anymore. We have to consider what we can pay for and what we can't. So we'll be making a financial request form that'll be available. Connie and I will make one this week and we'll have it available. If you feel like your ministry area needs money spent for something, fill out one of those. If it's urgent, we'll get the council to talk about it via email or phone or however and try and get an approval. But better than that would be to think preemptively, plan ahead. If you think something needs some finances, get that form filled out in time that we might be able to get it approved at the next council meeting. I don't think it would be fair to bog down the council day in, day out with little expenditures here and there. So we're going to ask you to request funds for something before you just simply go out and buy it. Second, we're trying to cut expenses. The council and the ministry teams are working on considering how to improve the quality of our ministries without spending as much as we have in the past. The truth of the matter is our number one resource when it comes to ministry is not money. Our number one resource when it comes to ministry is people. And so if we need to cut the finances that's going into a ministry, that does not mean that we have to cut quality. It means that this is a good opportunity for us to consider, how are we connecting with people life on life? What are we doing to engage kids at Kids Connection and 24/7 in meaningful relationships? We're not asking for our ministries to suffer. In fact, I really think that I think that what God is going to do with this is cause our ministries to flourish because of it. Thirdly, and this is where an assistant treasurer can come in. We're going to get some training, and we're putting some time and effort and energy into getting some new financial software up and running. We've purchased it. It's a big improvement on what we've had in the past. It'll help us to have better reports with better information. We'll be able to do budgeting, and all that kind of stuff in it. But we'll also be able to bring some things in-house. Once we get this up and running, we'll no longer need to pay an accountant to do payroll and quarterly and year-end tax information and all those kinds of things. We'll be able to bring all of our financial stuff in-house and be able to do all of that without having to pay somebody outside of the church. The accountant that we've been paying to do that, though, I will say this, has not overcharged us in any way, shape, or form. They've been very gracious to us, but any place that we can cut expenses, we will. Another one is to watch designated giving. As I've already said, there's nearly as much designated money being funneled through the church as undesignated money. We need to be able to pay our bills before we go out and pay other people's bills. And thirdly, and this is what we're going to ask for a vote on at the business meeting. We're going to ask for a vote to decrease our tithe. We've traditionally paid 10% of the general fund undesignated giving out to ministries. And as you can see, when our average is almost $150,000 a year, the $15,000 that we receive or that we sent out was proportionate. But now that we're down to $86,000, and then you subtract, we're really down to $100,000, and then you subtract that $15,000, that puts us down to $86,000. Then we can't even pay to keep our own lights on and heat going. And believe me, we've done the insulation, we've gone through and we've programmed all the timers, we've consulted with the piano guy as to what temperatures we can have in here so as not to affect the tuning and the shape of the piano. And we've got we're constantly monitoring things. We've raised the temperatures during the summer to have warmer temperatures. And in fact, we compared this last month's electric bill with the same month last year, and we cut our electric usage by 20% this last month from the previous year. So we're making real solid efforts to try and cut anywhere and everywhere we can. But the request of the council is to cut our tithe money going out to these various missions and local outreaches by 50% until such a time as we can replace some savings, get a more clear budget going, and hopefully see giving go back up. I didn't put this in here, but one of the things that I would make note of is, and I think there's some trends here on what we may be valuing and what we may be doing as a church. Going back to 2009, I want to say, I don't have the papers in front of me, but I want to say we had 7 baptisms that year. And we had new members as well. Not transferred memberships, new memberships. I've included the information in the packet here, but what you're going to see is a decrease in baptisms and membership to the last year down to 0. The only new members we had in the last year were Jennifer and I. And so we've had no baptisms, no membership, no nothing. And so I think the way we need to consider growing the church is not from having people move membership from one church to another, but to be willing to consider how we can make the most use of our time here and in what we do here, and then get out into the community and build relationships for the sake of sharing the gospel. We need to fill that thing back there up and dunk some people. Yeah.
I don't mean to hijack you here, but have we compared these trends to the community?
I have not. I don't know.
They're fixing to shut down the U.S. Bank.
I know.
Like, our town has died. And so are we comparing this to the community trends?
It would be a worthwhile thing to look into, and I don't know.
They're closing the bank?
Yeah, they're going to close the bank in November.
Sorry. Good job. They closed PPG.
Which just feeds into what John is saying. I think it's a worthwhile question to ask, but that's going to bring me right back to sharing the gospel. It is for freedom that we have been set free. We were dead in our trespasses and sin. We have been made alive together with Christ. If we want to breathe life into our community, it's going to be through the gospel, first and foremost. And so that's why I think those trends need to be looked at. And this is not a threat in any way, shape, or form. I had the conversation with some of the council members, and the overwhelming thing we said is we think people need to know this for the sake of simply knowing it. This is not correction. This is not chastisement. How many people here who aren't on the council were aware of this before today's meeting? Yeah, see? There's a couple, but not many. And so our thought was, as we share this information, people will be going, we needed to know that. This is good information. In the year before I got here, we did have some people who left. And a couple of them who left because we were no longer an American Baptist church, they left with big pocketbooks. God's got bigger pocketbooks, so I'm not worried about that. But this is something that we need to know as a church together. I think transparency is going to be the default mode always. I think that's best. We were part of a church that wasn't transparent in anything, would not publish the budget, would not give information, had no vote of the people on budgetary stuff. The elders just ruled it all. all. And they did it behind closed doors without any knowledge of anything that was going on. That's never going to happen as long as I'm here. And if it does, punch me in the face or something, because that's just not right. And so, like I said, this is not correction. Please try and separate this report from the message I preached today, if at all possible. Maybe the Holy Spirit's going to make connections between those things that need to be made, but this is not coming from me as application from the sermon. This is coming from me as information that I think is important for the church to know, and information that I think that we would need to know. How I would encourage you to move forward from here: take the papers that Connie has. Actually, she's got them right here. Spend some time reading the paper. Spend some time praying about it, and then call me and ask to talk about these things. Pray first, discuss second. I think that's the right order to put things in. Saying that, I would be glad to sit down with anybody at any time and show you how I got this information, where it's coming from, where we're at financially. All of the financial information gets posted on the bulletin board out here every month. So it's free for anybody to see at any point in time.